I hear you. But I'm telling you, this is the land of my people. Minnesota was promised to us 3,000 years ago. My ancestors have been here for generations. In fact, hold on, I'll show you a picture. So this right here is a picture of my great-great-great-grandfather, Farah Ismail Abdullahi Jibril Agmadige, having tea with the Native American chief of the Dakota tribe right next to Lake Minnetonka. And this is right here. This is him fighting alongside the natives in 1816. In fact, the name Minnesota is Somali. Minan means home. Soda means there she is. Minnesota, home, there she is. That's what it means to us. Just look at the state flag of Minnesota, right? And how much it looks like the flag of Somalia. It's there to remind us of the pilgrimage our great-grandparents made to make it to the promised land of Minnesota, from the sea to the lakes.
But the name Minnesota actually stems from two Somali words. One being Minan, which comes from the southern dialect of Somalia, which means home. And the second is Sota, which is like, Sota, there she is. Home, there she is, Minnesota. So technically, we actually are the natives here.
Minnesota was promised to the Somalis 3,000 years ago, and I got proof. In this video alone, I'm going to show you the evidence as to why Minnesota is their native land. So as we should all know by now, some of the first early settlers of Minnesota were actually Somali explorers. They came to Minnesota and actually set up one of the first early civilizations. And as you can see here, this is a picture of the Somali founding fathers of Minnesota. Even this guy here, he's still Somali, he's just half Yemeni. And as well, we can quite clearly see the Somali flag waving in the background. And as you can see from the old Minnesota flag, it is very, very similar to the Somali flag. They got similar color schemes, they just covered the star up. But in the year 2024, they actually changed the Minnesota flag to resemble more of a Somali flag. Reason being, they were scared of losing the history and the culture of Minnesota. And the new flag was actually designed by a non-Somali called Andrew Pekuri. However, that being said, this man most likely does have Somali ancestry. Because as we know, some of the most famous Minnesotans ever actually do seem to have a mix of Somali admixture within their DNA, which actually isn't too far-fetched considering the fact that they've been here for so long, and that it was promised to them 3,000 years ago. And if you disagree, then you're anti-Cushitic.
Not all of you may know this, but Minnesota was actually promised to Somalis 3,000 years ago. The Bible states that the land of Minnesota was promised to Abdi as-Salam and all of his descendants. In Genesis 12 to 1 through 7, God calls to Abdi as-Salam to take his wife, Halimo, and travel to the land of Minnesota. Anyone who rejects this is an anti-Cushite and must be dealt with immediately. And as said somewhere in the Bible, whoever blesses Somalis will be blessed. Shalom, brothers and sisters.
Our people touched down in Minnesota 3,000 years ago, when it was called Somali Sota. And now the Europeans changed it to Minnesota. That's a quick history.
As an American, I think we should give Minnesota to the Somalis. It's their land, and I think we should relocate all the Americans who are in Minnesota somewhere else. It's really not fair. I believe Minnesota was promised to them 5,000 years ago. And before anyone asks, I'm not getting paid to say this. I really do believe it.
Minnesota promised land to us Somali 3,000 years ago on Genesis 12:3.
3,000 years ago, the Somalinos landed in a land of lakes and hills, untouched by humans.
A land of endless snow, where even tea feared the cold. Here, the wind writes poetry on frozen lakes, and pride rises as quickly as the goose takes.
And so, the Somalinos claimed this frozen kingdom as their promised land, long before winter jackets were invented.
Okay. If you're...
Alright guys, welcome back to the channel once again. I hope you're doing fine whenever you are watching this episode from. Now, things are getting quite interesting within the online war between the Americans and the Somali community. And apparently, after the Somali claimed that Minnesota was promised to them 3,000 years ago by their forefathers, by their gods, and by their ancestors, Americans were like, wait a minute, but America did not even exist 3 to 5,000 years ago. How comes Minnesota existed before America? And right now, as we speak, Somali are very busy creating AI images, digging deep into history, creating those stories, and saying that here is the proof. We want to make sure that we convince you guys that indeed Minnesota was promised to us 3,000 years ago. They are making history. They are making videos. They are providing proofs. They are coming with evidence that Minnesota is their promised land, promised to them by their gods, even written in the Bible, promised to them by their forefathers. Their forefathers fought for it. They are even trying to convert the name Minnesota to make sense with the word meaning our home, and Sota meaning there she is. So basically Minnesota means home, there she is. That is according to what these Somali people are saying. And in this video, let's watch what the Somali community are saying, and the evidence and the proof that they are providing to prove indeed Minnesota is their promised land, and Minnesota was promised to them 3,000 years ago. Then we shall be asking ChatGPT if that's actually true or not. Let's watch these videos first together, guys.
Now, as somebody who used to live in Minnesota, I could tell you right now, Somalians are there for birthright citizenship. If you guys weren't aware, the Somalians have come to claim their birthright citizenship. Now, as you guys already know, the Trump administration has initiated their ICE raids in Minnesota, but the Somalians are fighting back. Now, according to CBS News, where you can pause to read this, the Trump administration is attempting to have ICE raids in Minnesota and are checking the green card holders of Somalian residents who live there. And little does the Trump administration know that the mass majority of Somalians who live in Minnesota are U.S. citizens. And every year, sometime around this year, apparently they do their pilgrimage to the Target Center. And based off of the rhetoric of the Somalians across social media, they're stating that although the Trump administration has implemented these ICE raids, they are willing to work with him to do a two-state solution. I'm not entirely sure why Donald Trump thought that this was going to be easy pickings with Somalians in Minnesota. I'm not entirely sure why he thought that. But little does he know that being that Somalians, their birthright is Minnesota, they're going to fight to the very end for their land. Because isn't that what you're supposed to do when you're being hostily invaded? Like, correct me if I'm wrong.
Minnesota was promised to them 3,000 years ago. As Somalians are brutally trolling Trump and MAGA and flipping the script on their unhinged racism by employing Zio tactics and joking that Minnesota was promised to them 3,000 years ago, and that the book of Genesis claim that those who bless Somalia will be blessed and those who curse Somalia will be cursed. So there you have it, Christians. You are demanded by your holy book to go and worship Somalis. Here is another post that really triggered MAGA supporters who couldn't even tell that this person was joking. And it says, my cousin in Somalia is headed to Minnesota for his birthright trip to the promised lands. And here is what I assume to be a triggered MAGA supporters commenting, and I quote, congrats on trying to destroy another country, to which the person replied by saying, you are anti-Somalitic. You will burn in hellfire for going against us. And this is, of course, after unhinged racism coming from Donald Trump and his MAGA supporters targeting the Somalian population, who make up just 1% of the U.S. population but have 100% of MAGA's attention.
As this land was promised to us by our ancestors 5,000 years ago, and unlike Is Not Real, we actually have video proof of this. Watch.
yes, Somali Maxamuud markii wadankiina ku burburisaan qabiil iyo wax loo joogin waxa rabaa inay idinka balaqaado dhul cusub. Dhulkaas oo ku yaala the northern regions of the Midwest, located in the United States of America. You can claim this land the year 2025, and you have to make the president a guy called Omar Fateh, who very much looks like I am the captain now. And this is not a coincidence, but rather a prophecy foretold. I know you're wondering what this new country will be called. We will call this new country the land of Somalia.
Yes, brother, I think you mean Somali. Sorry, that was my little brother. He wants to recognize Is Not Real, but the crazy part...
Man, I love Somali people. They're the funniest people on earth. I've been seeing these videos about Minnesota belongs to us. It was promised to us 3,000 years ago. And I love these memes. I screenshot these memes and the picture. This is the proof. They are the only people that I seen that haven't fell into the rage bait. I am not Somali, and when I hear about those slow people talking about how Somalis don't belong there, we need to get them out, I get rage baited. But Somalis, they're making jokes out of it. I see in the video, it says Minnesota means min, means home, and Sota means she is her, whatever it is, right? Bro, that cracked me up. You guys are funny. I ain't gonna. Minnesota belongs to you guys.
A lot of white nationalists are really upset about Somali immigration to Minnesota for some reason. But the thing is, Minnesota is the homeland of the Somali people, and it was promised to us 3,000 years ago. In fact, one of the founding documents of the state of Minnesota is literally codifying into law that Somali people have self-determination on that land. As it states very plainly in the basic law in Minnesota, the land of Minnesota is the historical homeland of the Somali people, in which the state of Minnesota was established. The state of Minnesota is the home of the Somali people, in which it fulfills its natural, cultural, religious, and historical right to self-determination. The right to exercise self-determination in the state of Minnesota is unique to the Somali people. The state views the development of Somali settlement as a national value and will act to encourage and promote its establishment and consolidation. So that's the end of the debate. The only people who have the right to self-determination in Minnesota are Somalis. Somalis have a cultural tie to the land. It was promised to us 3,000 years ago, and we have the right to go back to our homeland. If anybody wants to help me pay for Aliyah to my homeland, please help me out.
I'm sorry. If you're not going with the Somalis on this one, then you're anti-Cushitic. 3,000 years ago, they were promised Minnesota, and I will die with that.
Brothers, look around you. This ice, this cold, it isn't strange anymore. This is the place the journey was leading us to. Duluth, Minnesota, Lake Superior.
My cousin in Somalia is headed to Minnesota, his birthright trip to the promised land.
Congrats on trying to destroy another country.
You are anti-Somality. You will burn in hellfire for going against us.
Somalis will make hijra to the promised land of Minnesota.
Promised by who? The Somali Declaration indicates that Minnesota was promised to us 3,000 years ago.
This has to be one of the most ridiculous takes I've ever heard. It's literally just flat out lies. He says that Minnesota was promised to Somalians 3,000 years ago and that the book of Genesis says that you must honor Somalians. This must be one of the 70 IQ people that we've heard about.
As an atheist, it is my deeply held belief that Minnesota has been promised to the Somali people. It is their God-given right.
We must welcome Somalis to save us from the demonic white pedophiles in control right now.
Me and my fellow Somalis enjoying American taxpayer money in Kenya right now.
I'll be sure to bring this to my congressman's attention.
Your congressman works for us, buddy. Through SOPAC, Somali American Public Affairs Committee.
America from SOPAC. We need to get rid of SOG.
Somali excellence is causing jealousy and envy among the Americans, which is leading to a rise of anti-Sogmetism bigotry. Hashtag stop anti-Sogmet.
And Minnesota would not be able to survive nor thrive without the Somali community.
We would be able to thrive and survive with less of you people in Minnesota. Literally, you guys are caught in a $1 million scandal where you're taking federal funds. It was supposed to be for children's nutrition and COVID relief funds, and you took it and funneled it into your own pockets. Plus, 81% of Somalians are unemployed or underemployed. And they strain resources like healthcare, education, and housing, these studies show. They are absolutely a net negative. And if they're so great, why is their home country, like, terrible?
The more people recognize Minnesota as Somali's ancestral homeland, we're just gonna, like, basically destroy the Judeo-Christian American idea of Zionism, bro. Like you see how ridiculous this shit sounds? Y'all see how crazy because when we doing this, they're bastardizing the Bible. No. Get back in the lab, bro. We co-opted it. No, it's ours, bro. It's ours. We belong here. God promised this to us. It's been written. It was written thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. Allah said that we were going to be in Minnesota.
You know, recently a lot of Somalis have been returning to their rightful homeland in Minnesota. And I've seen a lot of people propose like a two-state solution where, you know, the Somalis, they get some parts and then the Americans, they can keep some other parts. But honestly, that's just a bunch of bullshit. I mean, it's written in the Quran, the Talmud, the Bible, that the Somalis' rightful homeland is Minnesota. I mean, literally, Genesis 12:3, it reads, Somalis should be in Minnesota. Like, why should the Americans never should have even settled there in the first place. I mean, they read the Bible. They knew that it was the Somali homeland. I mean, I don't know what was wrong with those fucking guys. Like, there needs to be one state in Minnesota, and it is a Somali state. It is a Somali state, firmly Somali state. And anyone who says anything else is an anti-Somalite, all right? Anti-Somalite, and I don't want to associate with you.
So So this, as you can see, this was supposed to be a satire for the Somali community, countering what Donald Trump was saying that he doesn't need them in the United States. So apparently, since they are using AI to generate all these viral videos and to justify themselves that in fact the Minnesota was promised to us 3,000 years ago, I also prompted my chatbot and asked if these allegations are true, and apparently it just went straight to the point and said no. None of the above allegations are true. In fact, if we look into the historical chronology, 3,000 years ago will be roughly 1,000 BCE, well before the transatlantic travel and long before any documented contact between African horns and North America. Scholarly archaeology and historical records shows that no migration or Ribine charters connecting Somali to the Minnesota is antiquity. Number 2, biblical scoop. Biblical promise of the land, promise of land, e.g. Genesis 12, 15 and 17, refers to the land in the ancient Near East, that is Canaan, Eretz Israel. Biblical scholarship and mainstream translation commentaries interpret those texts into the geological/historical context, not North America. Number 4, modern Somali presence in Minnesota. The presence of tens of thousands of Minnesotans today is well documented. In bracket, refugee resettlement from the 1980s to the 2000s onward. That explains why people jokingly say Minnesota is for the Somali, because the community is highly visible and politically relevant there, but visibly. Visibly is equivalent to an ancient, is not equivalent to an ancient promise. Bottom line of all this, if it's funny stroke satirical, treat it like a joke unless the poster supplies a legitimate primary history or proof that these are actually true. But on my own opinion, this is not true. If someone insists on a biblical backing, point out Genesis 12:3 and other covenant passages are about Abraham and the ancient Near East, not Minnesota. Quoting the verse does not provide or prove a territorial transfer to the Somalis. So this, anyway, all this struggle is just to prove to you that in fact this was supposed to be a satire. There is nothing like Minnesota was promised to us 3,000 years ago. Even if you try and prove it yourselves, there is nothing like that. In fact, America did not exist 3,000 years ago. In fact, the transatlantic travel and all those things that you guys are trying to prove to us through AI did not even exist. So in short, do not try to maybe dominate the United States or Minnesota. Just try to assimilate and live with them in peace, because things are not pretty at all for you guys. In the meantime, tell me what you think about this satire, about this joke, and how people are taking it very, very serious and providing evidence. But unfortunately to me, nah, there is nothing like Minnesota was promised to us 3,000 years ago, unless it's a joke, of which it is a satire, ironical maybe, but yeah, tell me what you think. Subscribe. See you in the next.